Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're taking the latest, absolutely crucial updates from the global and national news cycle and transforming them into a clear visual knowledge briefing. If you want to master the news without getting completely lost in the noise, you are exactly where you need to be. We're going to cut through the clutter together and build a solid map of what's happening in the world as of June 19th, 2026. To make sure these updates really stick, we've organized today's briefing into three main pillars: global environment and oceans, democracy and data governance, and finally, mega infrastructure and industry. Let's jump in.
Section 1. Global Environment and Oceans. So picture this. You've got 15 different countries from Africa, Asia, Europe, the Caribbean, and the Pacific, all sitting down at the same table to adopt something called the Mombasa Declaration. Now, what specific urgent environmental threat do you think brought all these vastly different nations together? Give it a quick thought.
If you guessed illegal fishing, you hit the nail right on the head. But this is actually part of a much larger, very specific framework that you absolutely need to know if you're following international environmental policy. And here's the exact term to lock into your memory: IUU fishing. That stands for illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. This agreement was officially adopted at the 11th R Ocean Conference held in Mombasa, Kenya, which, of course, is where it gets its name. So from now on, whenever you hear Mombasa Declaration, your brain should immediately link it to cracking down on IUU fishing. But how does a piece of paper actually stop illegal fishing out on the open water? Well, the core strategy here is radical transparency. It's all about ripping the Band-Aid off. The agreement demands much better access to information on fishing vessels and way more transparency around who actually owns them and how they're licensed. By basically shedding a massive spotlight on the shadowy corners of the global fishing industry, these nations are hoping to protect marine ecosystems and, crucially, safeguard the livelihoods of the millions of people who literally depend on fishing every single day to survive. Moving on to Section 2, Democracy and Data Governance. Let's test your active recall on a major national institution. We're talking about the India International Institute of Democracy and Election Management, or IIIDEM. Do you happen to know which organization actually established this premier training body?
It is, for sure, the Election Commission of India. The IIDEM functions right under the direct supervision of the ECI, essentially acting as its heavy lifting arm for training and capacity building.
Now, the reason we're talking about this today is because of a massive milestone. The Chief Election Commissioner just came out and congratulated the Institute for hitting the magic number: exactly 15 years of dedicated service in electoral training. Founded back in 2011 and headquartered in Dwarka, New Delhi, I really want you to think about what this place represents. This isn't just some symbolic office, it is the gold standard for promoting professional competence in election management. It just brilliantly illustrates the sheer, mind-boggling scale of Indian democracy. I mean, you literally need a massive, world-class institute running for a decade and a half just to train the personnel required to keep electoral integrity completely rock solid across the nation.
Staying within this realm of national governance, we've got a really important high-level government appointment that just crossed the wire. Who has officially been appointed as the brand new chairperson of the National Statistical Commission? This is a name you'll definitely want to remember.
Okay, so the government has officially appointed Dr. Saibal Chattopadhyay as the new chairperson, and he's not coming in alone. He's joined by three newly appointed members: Professor Shubhabrata Das, Shri Satendra Bahadur Singh, and Dr. Madhavan Mukund. Now, you might be wondering, why does this specific commission matter so much? Look, the National Statistical Commission is the absolute nodal body for all core statistical activities in India. They're the ones evolving national policies and setting the rigid standards for official data. When we talk about building public trust in official statistics, which is absolutely crucial, right? It's this commission that carries that heavy burden. They make sure all the different statistical agencies are actually talking to each other. Because, let's be real, without their foundational work, making effective national policies is basically just flying blind. Which brings us to our final section, Section 3, Mega Infrastructure and Industry. Geography and infrastructure basically go hand in hand. The proposed Kashau multipurpose dam project just had a massive breakthrough in negotiations. But before we get to that, let's check your geography. Where exactly is this megastructure going to be built? Which two states share the border where the dam will sit? Right, it's going to be located directly along the border of Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. Specifically, they're proposing to build this massive project on the Tons River. And for those of you taking detailed notes, the Tons River is actually the largest tributary of the Yamuna River.
Now, interstate dam projects are notoriously difficult to get off the ground, mostly because no one can ever agree on who pays for what. It's a headache. So, what finally broke the deadlock here? Money, of course. The central government stepped in and agreed to bear a staggering 90% of the water component cost. That was the absolute game changer that brought everyone to the table. So, with the center covering that massive 90% chunk, the remaining 10% is going to be split among 6 beneficiary states: Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, and Rajasthan. Once it's up and running, this isn't just about hydropower. It's going to provide essential irrigation, secure water supplies, and massively improve the environmental flow of the Yamuna across all these regions. It's a phenomenal example of cooperative federalism actually unlocking a billion-dollar megaproject.
Let's wrap things up today with a massive event happening right in the capital. The One Nation, One Expo Bharat BuildsCon 2026 was recently inaugurated. Which specific industry is this gigantic exhibition actually showcasing?
Yep, it's all about the construction and building materials sector. Hosted over at the Yashobhoomi Convention Center in New Delhi, Bharat BuildCon 2026 is basically the ultimate networking and technology playground for the entire heavy construction industry.
And I really want to emphasize the scale of this thing because it is wild. We're talking about active participation from over 90 different countries and more than 100 Indian cities. They're showcasing cutting-edge innovations across 24 entirely different industrial segments, everything from cement, steel, and ceramics to the newest electricals and modern construction tech. It's literally the entire future of how we build things, all under one roof.
All right, as we wrap up today's explainer, I want you to take a step back and look at how all these distinct pieces of news actually weave together. We've talked about 15 nations trying to track down illegal fishing fleets. We've talked about 6 Indian states agreeing to split the bill on a massive river dam. But here's the thing, none of these agreements, none of this progress is even possible without an agreed-upon objective reality. Without the reliable, trusted data generated by groups like the National Statistical Commission we talked about earlier, how could we ever manage international fishing pacts or billion-dollar infrastructure sharing? Trust in the numbers is what actually builds trust between states and nations. So the next time you see a massive global agreement flash across your screen, ask yourself, whose data is actually making that handshake possible? Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep learning.